Hello, I am Dr. Padmaja Kamath from Ponda Education Society, Sri Ravi S. Naik College of Arts and Science, Farmagudi, Goa, India. My topic for today's presentation is temples, probing the possibilities of economic regeneration of the local communities in Goa. Goa is one of the youngest states of the Indian Union, and as such, it is the smallest state too, with a size of just 3,700 square kilometers in area. The population size is comparatively small, that is 14,58,545, but the literacy rate of the state is pretty high, that is of 88.70%. Located on the west coast of India, Goa is situated in the proximity of the Western Ghats, and as such, it shares the common physical features with the neighboring states of Maharashtra and Karnataka. The different cults of worship that are being followed in Goa were introduced in the state by the different tribes that visited Goa from time to time in the ancient phase. Today, most of these temples are dedicated to the different aspects of the major cults of Shiva, Shakti, and Vishnu. These temples have played a key role in offering resistance to the Portuguese hegemony that lasted from 1510 to 1961. Today, these temples are being projected as symbols of cultural resurgence of the people of Goa. In the post liberation era, these temples got integrated into the national pilgrimage networks and they began to receive a large inflow of not only Goan diaspora spread far and wide in the country but also the tourists. Some of these temples have found their way into the international tourist circuit, and owing to this factor, they have registered immense financial growth and their net yearly incomes exceed 10 millions in Indian rupees. Managements of some of the temples have been very proactive in exploring new avenues of income generation, but others have shown no inclination towards amplifying their incomes. There is an urgent need of organized efforts on the part of the temple managements as also the state government in order to evolve a strategic plan to use the religious and cultural phenomena associated with these temples in order to ensure economic regeneration of the local communities and thereby facilitate economic and cultural enrichment of the state. This study probes the possibility of temples playing a key role, along with the state government, in generating sustainable growth and development of local communities that are slowly losing their livelihoods in the age of modernization. The research method for this study is the qualitative research method, which has been suggested as very useful in social sciences by the scholars like Wiersma, Theis, Hennig, Hutter, and Bailey, because it permits in depth knowledge about the topic that is being probed and also helps in projecting the human side of the issue being discussed. The qualitative method also plays very effective role in identifying abstract aspects of socio-economic status, etc. This study is based on the individual interviews of small business owners at the cultural heritage sites like the temples, and the focus groups have been the street vendors, the amateur actors, cab owners, and women's self-help groups in these sites. The trend of tourism began for the state of Goa in 1965 itself with the arrival of the backpackers from abroad. The charter tourists followed very soon. Today, tourism has been identified as the fastest growing economic sector and the expected annual growth rate is of 7.9% by the year 2023. Goa follows 10 tourism categories. The beach tourism happens to be the major category, but in this category, Goa has reached saturation stage as it has produced very stark impacts on local society and, more importantly, the local ecology. The cultural and pilgrimage tourism are identified as category number 5 and 6 in the government policy on tourism. This chart reflects the consistent inflow of foreign tourists to Goa using the charter flights, and both the number of the flights and the number of the tourists increased manifolds this year owing to the decennial exposition of the sacred relics of the Catholic patron saint of Goa, Saint Francis Xavier, which began on November 22nd, 2014 and ended on 4th January 2015. This chart depicts the total number of tourist arrivals to Goa. It also makes it obvious that the decennial exposition event was of immense importance for tourism in Goa as it attracted a huge influx of foreign tourists at the fag end of 2014 and it continued up to January 2015. This is a graphical depiction of tourist inflows between 2010 and 2014. The government of the state of Goa has to adopt a new promotion strategy towards the cultural heritage tourism. It has to develop its brand strategy for simultaneous promotion of budget tourism and the upmarket tourism in order to attract both the backpackers and the charter tourists. On the domestic scenario, it has to reduce the burden of tourism related taxes. It has to issue licenses to local guest houses, lodges, and homestays in a speedier way. Incentives have to be introduced for tour operators by offering loan facilities through nationalized and cooperative banks and also the state financial agencies. There has to be public participation in decision making with respect to tourism. The NGOs have to be pressed into service to provide credit and non financial services for launching micro enterprises in this sector. There has to be the government partnership with local bodies, police, schools, and NGOs in order to achieve clean, safe, and honorable tourism. Goa is fortunate to have idyllic landscapes and serene temple sites. Living museums should be created at major temple sites in order to promote temple heritage in a very innovative way. They should be provided with visitor center and an auditorium for projecting orientation films about the Hindu culture. There should be historical recreation of the 16th century Goan village in order to highlight the agonies and the fallouts of the policy of religious persecution followed by the Portuguese in Goa. The role players have to be engaged to revive the memories of forced migration the people had to sustain. In order to cause enhancement of economy of villages with temple sites, handicrafts workshops should be set up in the proximity of the temples, selling holy souvenirs for a premium to the visiting tourists. Ethnic cafes should be raised to promote the catering agents and to cause simultaneously the empowerment of women of the locality. Community halls need to be built in the vicinity of the temples to make a temple a wedding destination. The local culture of Goa can be very aesthetically promoted by taking up attractive packaging of folk festivals like Shigmo, Dhalo, Zatras, folk theatre showcasing Ratkalo, Gauda Zagor, and Perni Zagor, folk dances like Ghodemodni, Gof, Fugdi, ritual practices like Kirtan and Bhajan, and temple music including Chauguda and Panchavadya. All these efforts are bound to produce rich returns for the state coffers. The Bhakti Mahotsav should be hosted at the temple sites and not at city centers. The major gain from all these endeavors will not only be the revival of cultural traditions of Goa but also generation of employment opportunities for the locals in a big way. Serious efforts should be made to promote cultural heritage tourism through education and training. BBA and BSc courses in tourism and hotel management should be offered by more colleges affiliated to the Goa University. A full program of MA in Applied History should be introduced in local colleges to train personnel to manage museums, archives, and electronic repositories. Formal programs need to be initiated to train tourist guides. More licenses need to be issued to the training institutes in hospitality and culinary education. Multiple food crafts institutes should be set up. And ultimately, it has to be remembered that it is imperative for all stakeholders to see to it that the culinary talents focus on local flavors and ethnic cuisine. The government of Goa state has to adopt a new promotion strategy towards cultural heritage tourism internationally. The Department of Tourism has to make a wise use of advertisements issued in the print and the electronic media to lure the international market. The tourism department has to participate in the international roadshows and trade fairs more frequently and more vigorously. In these days of extensive social networking, the policymakers have to make intensive use of Facebook and Twitter for promoting cultural heritage tourism in Goa. While concluding this presentation, it will be pertinent to remember that heritage tourism permits a reliving of the past in an intimate fashion. It provides a discernible connection between the past, present, and the future. It is a key factor in foreign exchange earnings and regional development. However, all the stakeholders are recommended to observe precautions while dealing with the phenomenon of mass tourism, which can definitely engender erosion of cultural traditions. No efforts should be spared in fostering equanimity between the advocates of conservation and champions of tourism. Only such measures will facilitate the much desired inclusive growth in India. Thank you.